Regresamos a Clase Ejecutiva, a Sudáfrica Mundial. Estamos con su excelencia, el señor embajador de Sudáfrica, el embajador Anthony Leon. Ambassador Tony Leon, which are the South Africans' main driving forces for generating economic wealth in your country?
Well, Ricardo, like many other economies, services constitute the biggest portion of our GDP, and South Africa is obviously a gateway to Africa itself. So many of the software, the technology of Africa comes from South Africa. But in terms of exports, our biggest exports remain minerals and mining. We are the world's biggest producer of platinum, chrome and manganese, and we are now the fourth biggest producer of gold. We used to be the biggest, but that's dropped a bit. And so that's a very big part of our GDP. Tourism, we've increased the number of visitors to South Africa from just over 1 million in 1994 to nearly 10 million last year. And we hope with the World Cup, we're going to have a lot more. And I might just add that there are direct air links 3 times a week on South African Airways between Buenos Aires and Johannesburg, and twice a week Malaysian Airways between Buenos Aires and Cape Town. So there's a real bridge between our countries, which are closer together, incidentally, than Johannesburg is from Addis Ababa or Buenos Aires is from Miami. So we actually are, although we separate by the Atlantic, we are close together. And I really hope that we can increase the levels of trade, tourism and contact between Argentina and South Africa in the next few years.
Let me say some few words about South Africa, que es un país ubicado en el extremo meridional de África, limita con Namibia, Botsuana, Zimbabue, Mozambique y Suazilandia, y el reino de Lesoto se encuentra enclavado dentro de la República de Sudáfrica. Su superficie es equivalente a la mitad de la superficie argentina y algunos índices son bastante similares porque el PBI en términos de paridad de poder adquisitivo es 14%, apenas 14% menor que el nuestro, y el PBI per cápita es 8% menor que el nuestro. Su moneda es el rand, el tipo de cambio creo que es, the exchange rate is 7.50.
To the dollar, sí.
7.50 por dólar americanos. Sus capitales son Pretoria, capital política es Pretoria, política administrativa. Bloemfontein, que es judicial, y Ciudad de Cabo, Cape Town, que es legislativa. La ciudad más poblada y capital económica es la enorme Johannesburgo o Joburg, que es una gran ciudad con aproximadamente 7 millones de habitantes si consideramos toda la zona metropolitana. Sudáfrica es conocida por su diversidad de culturas e idiomas. 11 idiomas, nos decía el embajador, son reconocidos como oficiales por la Constitución. El inglés es el 5º, pero el más hablado del país, digamos, en la vida comercial y oficial. Y Sudáfrica es un país de extraordinarias bellezas y enormes riquezas naturales. Es un punto de referencia fundamental en el continente africano, es miembro del G20, su forma de gobierno democrático es republicana, es una república con su correspondiente división de poderes. Su actual presidente es su excelencia el señor Jacob Zuma. How the crisis treated you?
Well, I think we took a knock during the global recession, as many countries did. Our GDP growth went into decline for the first time in 12 years. It went backwards last year. But this year we're looking at about a 3% growth rate. And the one factor that we have in South Africa are very strong financial institutions. So our banks were very well regulated. I also have to mention that our biggest bank in South Africa is Standard Bank, which owns one of the biggest banks in Argentina. It's our biggest investment here is Standard Bank of Argentina, South African owned. And that in turn is 20% owned by the Chinese. So you've got a very interesting example of 3 nations involved in the same entity, Argentina, South Africa and China, in Standard Bank. And that's really been a pathfinder for us because of the work that they've done in Africa and the world. Which has proven that South Africa's financial institutions are good. One of the ways the government of South Africa is trying to overcome the consequences of the global recession is to invest in infrastructure, which incidentally is something that China's done and other countries have done, to stimulate local demand and create local employment. And the government has a very ambitious infrastructure program, about $100 billion, quite a lot of which has been spent for the World Cup. On the new stadia, we've got 10 new stadia, a lot new hotels. We've just opened the first rapid rail transit system in Africa between the Johannesburg airport and Johannesburg and Sandton, which people will be able to travel on for very little. About $10 buys you a ticket, and it will get you from the airport to the center of Johannesburg in just 12 minutes non-stop.
Right.
So that's a great improvement, which the World Cup obliged us to do. If you want to host a world-class event, you've got to do world-class things.
And what is the impact do you expect from the World Cup? In terms of, I mean, in economic terms and in geopolitical terms?
Well, I think in both, because first of all, it's going to massively increase the profile of South Africa, not just on excellent programs like yours, Ricardo, on
Thank you very much.
Club Ejecutiva, but it's also
business class.
It's also going to show the world what South Africa is, and it's a modern, progressive, dynamic country. And it's also part of a continent that's had a very bad press. Some of the bad press for Africa has been brought on it by Africa. Some of it's because of perceptions. But this will be another opportunity to showcase a different Africa to the world. And economically, we're expecting the World Cup and the expenditure around it to generate more than 0.5% for our GDP growth this year and leave a legacy of infrastructure going forward. And obviously, one of the things that we are doing as an embassy here is to encourage many of the top Argentine businessmen who are going to South Africa to do business while they're in South Africa. So hopefully there'll be a consequence long after the final whistle on the 11th of July.
We are going to make the last one, commercial break, if you allow me.
Sure.
Y volvemos con el gran cierre de Sudáfrica Mundial en clase ejecutiva.